Welcome back. Just before we kick into the World Cup, I don't know if you saw that sting there, Richard. That was the Moose with the Moose from TalkSport. You suggested we got in touch with him. Right. Thanks to your daughter, I ended up having a donut eting competition.
Well, I will be betting on that. You can have 100 to 1.
We know who'd win that.
He won. I give up.
Nobody eats like the Moose.
Mr. Greedy.
Oh.
But he came in, he was kissing his badge and all sorts. He takes it very seriously.
I think to offer a handicap. I think there's a 7 handicap start on it.
Oh, he's sort of plus 50 kilos or whatever it is. I hope you're watching. Morning to you, the Moose. Right, let's go to our first slide. The World Cup outright and top scorer. We've got 10 questions we're going to ask you.
Hit me.
The first question, who's going to win the World Cup?
We might get stuck on this one. I don't think it will be... It will obviously be one of the bigger countries.
Yep.
But I don't think this one is going to be as obvious as we think. See, Brazil are the current favourites. I'm not convinced they're that good.
Okay.
I'm really not. If Messi can drag them over the line, he will take on elevated status like Maradona. If they'll be tournament ready. They always are, Germany. Spain will be competitive. I don't fancy Belgium. I don't think they know what it's about to compete in a tournament like this. Lots of good individual players. I think it's a collective that's required. France, no. Italy, always tournament ready. It might be one down here. It might be. Listen, I was really buzzing when Roy Hodgson named his squad, and then when he suggested that perhaps those young men could take us over the line. Great. I can't for a moment think they will. We'll
come on to England in our next question.
But it's exciting that we've got a squad and not too much expectation.
Yep.
And a squad that might just do something different.
Yep. Okay, so there's nobody in your mind you're thinking.
I don't think there's any. I genuinely don't think everybody go Brazil because they're playing at home. I don't think there's a standout winner.
Okay. Now the last time we did a Skype, you said England World Cup chances. That was my question, and sadly you said none. Anything in terms of that selection of the squad? Ross Barkley?
Maybe I was a little flippant, but I still don't think England. I remember Margaret Thatcher once saying many years ago, "There'll never be a woman prime minister in my time." I don't think England will win the World Cup now or anytime soon.
Right.
I think a quarter-final performance would be outstanding.
Okay.
If a member of the FA said that, we'd probably.
Bite the hand off.
Well, we'd probably batter him for lack of ambition, but I just think you've got to be realistic. Roy Hodgson was and is the best man for the job, full stop, in my opinion.
Yep.
But I think he's got a real job on getting out of the group. That's the first thing I would say, a real job. And I'm not convinced we will get out of the group. If we get out of the group, I think we've got enough in a section that's quite inviting in that respect to maybe make an impact. And the fact, perhaps, that there's no, as I've said, there's no expectation. Maybe. But I just can't see England winning the World Cup. Neither here, nor in Russia, nor in Qatar.
Well, we're 6-5 favourites to bow out of the group stages, so we're bookies' favourites to go out of the group stages. I think the squad gives punters some hope. I really do.
So do I.
But I think he has to go. If we start with Lallana and Sturridge and Sterling and go with raw pace in that heat, I think we've got chances. I think these are good players, and I'm not saying, but if we start with the same old Milner, these kind of players, which I think they're solid players and
solid club players.
I think they do a job for you, but it's not a team that's going to win the World Cup. I think we need to go and surprise. So if we start with the right players, I think a quarter-final berth is a great possibility. In the second round, we play either Ecuador or Japan or that, so it's a winnable game if we get through there. But in the quarter-finals, we're likely to run into Brazil or Spain. And that's where it
sounds a bit
and it's
tricky.
We're 5-1 to go out the quarter-final stages. And but I think if we go with the right team, what I don't as an England fan, I don't want us to suddenly play the right team in the game we need to win last at Costa Rica.
Right.
Go for it. Go for the right team now. Play them through the groups, and let's get better and stronger. But we're 6-5 to bow out the groups and 5-1 in the quarter-final.
Okay. So which team is going to surprise in the World Cup? I saw the Nigerian goalkeeper quoted in the last 24 hours saying Nigeria are going to get to the semi-finals.
No, they're not.
just thought we'd clarify and quantify that on TV.
Put that into context straight away. No, they're not. But which team is going to surprise? Portugal might. If he's playing as well as he has done this year, well, in recent years, because for me he has been the best player in the world before this season. At last, people have recognised that he's the best in the world, Ronaldo. Of course, he's a wonderful footballer. Of course he is. And there's not been too much between them, but I think this year he has put daylight between them. And if he can carry, as I said, a Messi with Argentina, if Ronaldo can carry Portugal, I think they might just be a surprise.
Right.
But he is just awesome.
Yep.
Awesome.
Your homework for next week, Gemma, and you come back on the show.
Well done, Moose. I like this.
Is to choose.
She never used to do any, by the way.
Right, that's. Can't say that. This is live. This is TV, not ITV, boys and girls. You've got to come in with a picture of the best-looking bloke in the World Cup for the girl viewers.
All right.
Yes.
And
yes.
Helen Flanagan for you.
Goes without saying. Who's she again? Right, who's going to be the top scorer in the World Cup?
That's why I said maybe them. I'm going to go Ronaldo.
Ronaldo.
Yeah, I am going to go Ronaldo. And if he's getting goals and dragging them with him, who's favourite?
Yeah, well, I think he's going to be the favourite for the market if he get out the group. I mean, you've got a very tough group, Portugal, haven't they? So that's the big key for them, you know. So that's why he's a 14-to-1 shot. If they were in the same group as Argentina,
he'd be shorter.
He'd be the favourite, without a shadow of a doubt. So if they get out of the group, then Ronaldo's a great shot. It's a bet that we'll be on 14-to-1 pre-tournament, and it'll be 5-to-1 favourite.
That's why it's worth maybe the odd fiver now.
Yeah.
Because they're actually very attractive at the minute, aren't they?
And that's because of the group they're in. You know, once they get through that, if they get through the group, then they'll be half the price.
Okay, so who's going to be England's star man?
I would like to think Wayne Rooney.
That's an interesting call.
Sharp intake of breath. I'll tell you why, because he hasn't been.
Okay.
He's done nothing at international tournaments.
Agreed.
Although in Portugal, until the injury, he was on fire, if you remember. The night against the Portuguese, when the metatarsal went, he'd had a terrific tournament. David Beckham never delivered at a major tournament. It's the one criticism I think you can have of David, despite a glorious playing career. Wonderful ambassador for the country. Didn't do it at major tournaments. Rooney needs to do it this time, because I think this is his last time. And I think his attitude in going into it has been right. He's not on the beach.
Yep.
He's not around a pool with a glass.
He's taken a couple of.
He's taken trainers with him to his own personal training camp, and I think he's determined this time to make an impact.
Right.
And coming off the back of the season he's had, I mean, heaven forbid where Manchester United would have been without him this year. I'd hate to think. His contribution to their season was enormous.
The beginning of the season, when I was watching him on Match of the Day, he was just phenomenal.
He should have been. I think he will look back on his career and say could have done better. Having said that, he's now how many goals? 40 goals from being United's all-time top goal scorer.
Not far from England's top.
He's not far from being England's top goal scorer. He's won every medal that there is to win. But he might just have wanted to have left us talking about him in the same breath as Ronaldo and a Messi.
Right.
Because I think he had that in his bag at one time.
Right.
Now is his time.
Right.
Don't think it'll be Stephen, because I think Stephen's job now is different. It'll be someone that can. If we're coming out of that group, we need him to deliver this time.
The thing is with Rooney though, and England, if they get off to a good start and confidence high, I think he'll absolutely have a fantastic tournament like he did in Portugal. If we lose 1-0 to Italy in the first game and then we struggle against Uruguay, I can see a public backlash from the media of Rooney. I really can, and I think that people will be saying we've got to start with Sturridge, we've got to start with Sturridge, if they don't already start with Sturridge.
I'd like to see him start with Sturridge and Rooney.
I'm not quite sure he will though.
And Sterling.
I think we all like to see that, but this is Roy Hodgson we're talking about. In the first game, I think he's very negative to not lose those games. But I think if we get off to a good start, Rooney will be an absolute superstar in this tournament, and I think we pin our hopes. If we get off to a slow start, I think there could be a backlash, and people will vent their frustration at Wayne Rooney.
Agree.
I feel.
Yeah.
Okay. So who's going to be England's...
Would he be on your list of good-looking?
No.
That wasn't very nice, was it?
You could have hesitated.
So is he going to be England's top goal scorer then?
I'd like to think so. I'd like to think so. Having said that, if England's top goal scorer gets 3, but Sterling, Sturridge, Rooney, Lallana and Gerrard all get 3,
We're close, aren't we?
We're very close.
We're in it. Our top goal scorer in the last two majors has been one goal.
Right.
One of them has been Matthew Upson.
Well, there you go.
And the other one was, who was the other centre-half who scored? There's another centre-half who scored, I can't remember who it was. But we've had centre-half score. I think Tim Cahill's a big price at 50 to 1 to be our top goal scorer. Because if you go back to even Mark Wright back in 1990.
Loved him as a footballer.
But we always, when we're like 1-0 down and we need a goal, we send a big centre-half up again. I mean, it's a format that we always score for.
But if your team delivers, and the proof of the pudding are Hull, who came up from the Championship without one of their squad getting double figures. Not one. How do you do that? And I think their top scorer this year's got 6, Jelavic. 6, and yet they've survived. So if the group, to use another modern day phrase, if everybody gets involved, you can get away with it. Yeah.
Okay. Which team's going to be the biggest flop in the World Cup?
I think the expectation on Belgium is such that they might be. This is the first time they've gone anywhere.
Yep.
Expecting them to do something, and I think you need a little bit of nous. I think you need to be like the Germans and the Italians are always. I mean, how did Italy get through to the European Championship final? The state of their domestic football's a mess. They don't have anybody playing in our league, the best, and certainly the most exciting league in the world. Everybody's largely based within the confines of their borders, and yet when it comes to tournaments, they always do well. So I think you need a little bit of knowledge, and I don't think Belgium have got that. And for people to be talking about Belgium winning it, this might come back and bite me, but I can't see that.
I think you're absolutely right. I mean, Belgium have been the most heavily backed team anti-post. They're a terrible result for bookmakers. There's people sitting around with 500 to 1 betting slips from 2 years ago, 200 to 1. And the reason why they're 20 to 1 is because the bookies are running for cover.
Right.
They've got them in at that price because they're pulling down the shutters. We don't want to take any more of Belgium. And at 20 to 1, they're the worst. If you're betting Belgium to win this World Cup, you need to be admitted to the World Cup funny farm because they're never a 20 to 1 shot. If you had a match Belgium against Italy in a one-off game in the quarter-final of the World Cup, Italy would be overwhelming favourites to beat Belgium, but yet the Italians are 28 and Belgium are 20. Absolutely agree. And the players they have probably peaked 6 months ago.
Right.
I don't think Hazard's as good as he was. Fellaini's had a disastrous season.
Terrible.
Vermaelen can't get into the Arsenal side. Apart from the goalkeeper, who's probably the best goalkeeper in Europe, Courtois. I think they're 6 months away from their best. And at 20 to 1, that's a terrible price. I also think the Italians might struggle. I think that in England's group, I mean, the last World Cup they didn't win a game against Paraguay, New Zealand, and the mighty Slovakia. And I think they're the wrong favourites in that group. I think Uruguay will win our group, and I think it's between us and Italy will get through. And I think if we get a draw against the Italians, I think we'll fancy playing Costa Rica last. So I'm heading.
Mind you, they're nobody's fools, are they?
They're not.
You know, I think we're all dismissing Costa Rica as the team that everyone's going to beat, and it's a question of by how many. But I think they might just be a little bit better than that.
Well, I like the fact that we play them last because they could have lost 2 games. They play the Uruguay side.
That's true.
And then we go into the game knowing that they have nothing to play for. If we play them first, I think they're a side that could beat us 1-0 or we get a draw. But the fact we play them last when we know what we've got to do, and they could be effectively out, more than likely probably be out. I think we could probably have a better advantage, probably outscore the games that Italy and Uruguay have done. So that's why I'm sort of tending towards that.
I'm still thinking about best looking player at the World Cup, Ronaldo. He's got to be right up there, hasn't he?
It was always Cannavaro was always the favourite, wasn't he?
I'll give you another question, Richard, to think about. Right,
He was always.
There's a throw a name in. I worked with him recently, Fabio Cannavaro. He's still a very good looking boy. Oh.
He would be always the bookmaker's favourite in the market.
He's a pint pot as well, you know. There's nothing of him. Nothing of him. He's tiny.
Like Peter Reid.
Bigger. No one's as small as Peter Reid.
We like Peter Reid here at TV. So should Qatar host the 2022 World Cup, and should Tip TV send Jemma there as international correspondent?
I think yes on all of those.
That was a very easy one, wasn't it?
We haven't got the time probably to get into the debate about Qatar in 2022. But the Middle East, and I know there's an allegation, well, he would say that, wouldn't he, because I'm part of it, and I know that, is a part of the world that hasn't previously hosted the World Cup. You would not believe the affection for our game and the hysteria that goes with it.
Right.
These guys want to be able to touch more than they have, and that is only via what we deliver at the moment, because that's probably the best way to access the Premier League, those who can't travel. if you're saying to me, should Qatar host the World Cup in November and December of 2022, I would say to you, yes. Do I think they'll move it? I think they probably will.
Right.
Because they almost certainly will have to. But I do know that the Delivery and Legacy Committee, who are charged with putting the World Cup on, are happy to go with whatever FIFA would wish. So if FIFA say we want this now to be a summer World Cup, Qatar summer, bearing in mind winter, we can be subjective about winter. South Africa was a winter World Cup, but semantics perhaps. If they say we'll go in the summer, Qatar will deliver in the summer. There's
Right.
two ways about that. They have the technology that runs now, that on a very warm afternoon, and it is warm now back in Qatar, you can play in temperatures of less than 30 degrees within the stadium that's currently existing. Now, Manaus, I rather suspect, is going to be as hot as, and arguably as difficult as conditions in Qatar might be for England and others at this World Cup. But there's not been much said about that. It's certainly going to be sticky. It's certainly going to be difficult. As far as our World Cup is concerned, Qatar's World Cup, I think it will happen, but I don't think it will happen when we expect it to.
Right.
And just briefly on that, if it didn't, I think that would be a bonus, because it would be the first World Cup ever where players were in peak condition. You take a break in the middle of the season, and England's the only major league in the world that doesn't. And maybe the answer to that is that we forego FA Cup replays to create the space in our season to have a break, and then we can come into line with everybody else. And then you can get a November-December World Cup away. Players in peak condition, it could be the best thing that's ever happened to football. But what I do know is it will happen in Qatar. What I don't know is when it will happen in Qatar.
Right.
And they're very keen in Qatar to point out, by the way, that if the process is revisited, 2018 would also presumably be part of that revisit, because it was bids for both groups, both countries on the same day, wasn't it? So,
Okay, my last question. If England have an absolute stinker, does Roy Hodgson keep his job into the Euros?
I'd like to think so, because I am a huge Roy Hodgson fan.
I am as well.
I think he's a gentleman.
Yep, agreed.
I think he's knowledgeable.
Agreed.
Beyond anybody else that's available. I think he's honest, which is a rare quality in football. But he's honest, and I think he's a statesman.
Well, he went to the same secondary school as me, and I think he can now talk
really?
5 languages, and I can only talk South London. So I was obviously in the wrong year.
He's worked everywhere. He knows everybody. Of course, if we have a stinker, there will be a lot of questions to be answered. But I'm not sure he would be the one having to answer all of them. The problems that we have in this country are far greater than if indeed they exist. If you listen to Greg Dyke, he will tell you they do. 66% is it now, or 66 players in the Premier League English? It's not a lot. So maybe there's a far greater problem we need to address than just giving Roy a kicking if it goes wrong. But I don't think it will, because the expectation isn't there. In previous World Cups, we've always believed we could win it. We've left here almost having carved our names on it. And that was always a daft policy for me. At South Africa, I couldn't see us winning the World Cup.
Did you see the cup final, incidentally? The man who was chiselling away at the FA Cup, and that was before the end of the match.
Yes. Do you know whose idea that was? Jeff Shreves.
Really?
Who I used to work with this guy. Yeah, because Jeff's idea was you see the Open Championship name being carved onto the trophy prior to the end, and Jeff said, wouldn't it be a good idea if we risky? Because things can change fairly dramatically.
Everyone say what?
I thought it was a producer saying Britain's Got Talent on in 5 minutes.
Risky. But most years it's worked out quite nicely, and it is special, I think.
But it's risky, though, isn't it?
It's definitely risky.
It's like a bit of sellotape and crayon.
It's only a few letters. It's not like Wolverhampton Wanderers.
Back to that one with West Ham and Liverpool in Cardiff when he scored the late goal. I mean, hang on.
Get another cup. Okay, we've got one more.
His idea.
We've got one more slide. This is just a little bit of tipping from young Nigel. Hopefully the World Cup countdown early value. Do you want to just have a very quick...
Yeah, what we're going to do now every day, we're going to put up a World Cup early bird bet that we think is going to be shorter as the competition builds. The one I've got here is Jackson Martinez, he's Porto centre forward, top goal scorer. The top goal scorers in World Cup are very rarely won by the big names. You go, you know, there's always a few shocks to win it. Miroslav Klose won it when he wasn't a household name. He was 100-1 outsider. He scored 5 goals against Saudi Arabia in one game and pretty single-handedly won it. Colombia have got a very easy group. I think they're a side that will really impress this year. Unfortunately for them, Falcao has an injury. Well, I think it's a major doubt. I think it may even be confirmed that he isn't going to play. And so Martinez comes in his place. He hasn't played much international football, 26 games with only 8 goals, but he is going to be the main centre forward for Colombia this campaign. His club form for Porto this season has been exceptional. He scored 129 goals in his 254 games, 46 goals this season. And you can get 80-1 for him to be the top goal scorer. This market is very rarely won by the big guns. It's never very rarely won. You go back through history and look at the winners of the Golden Boot. They're not usually some big names apart from Ronaldo from Brazil's the obvious one. But Martinez at 80-1 is definitely will not be that. He'll be 40-33-1.
What was Lineker? Didn't Lineker finish 86?
Did he? He was the top goal scorer then, but I think England would have gone in as big outsiders, and he would have been a big price. I think the likes of Zico would have been way up there. Maradona would have been one of the favourites.
Yes.
He probably would have been around about a 33-1 shot, something like that. But I think that there was a guy who went to West Ham, a Romanian guy who was the top goal scorer. I can't remember who it was. He's the top goal scorer in one World Cup. Davor Suker as well for Croatia.
You just need 3 against somebody, don't you?
And
really?
it's usually in the game in the group where there's nothing to play for.
Right.
You usually have one game where one team are out and one team go out and win 6-0 in the last game, and that guy scores a hat-trick and does it, and it could be anybody. But Martinez is 80-1 now. I think he'll be a big star, and that he's right at good age, 27. It's a prime of his career. Banging form of Porto, great season domestically, and he's a wrong price because he will play forward and Falcao won't play.
Can I just have one last question?
Please do.
World Cup final hat-trick. What would the odds be on that?
I think if it wasn't a final between involved Messi or Ronaldo, I think you'd be looking at 150-1 on the day of the final for someone to score a hat trick. But Messi and Ronaldo are exceptional. When it comes
Even money.
in La Liga, they're 6-1 to score hat tricks. These guys, again, when they play a bit of Valladolid or Granada, they're 6-1 to score hat tricks, which you would have thought isn't value. But you win on it, you know. So it must be value. But I think if we got to the final without one of the big sides in, and then it was, I think you look at 150-1 on the day of the final.
I have one request. If Andy Gray comes into London this summer, can we have him on the show? Because I'd like to talk to him about Scottish independence.
I will make that a promise. If it's Scottish independence.
Yeah, because you hear all the politicians, and we all get bored with the politicians, don't we? Because, you know, we think there's an edge, okay? I'd like to hear a football man on the street, okay, talks common sense most of the time, talk about Scottish independence.
Yes, he's good on that subject. He doesn't want Scottish independence.
He doesn't want
that,
okay?
No.
So I would love to have him on the show, apart from anything else.
I'll make that a promise.
Thank you.
He's in town right now. He's in Glasgow.
Is he?
He's with his mum. Back next week, he's in Abu Dhabi because Ozzy Osbourne is on stage next week.
Ozzy Osbourne?
And it's his mate, so they're playing
really?
next week. Yeah. Tony Iommi, the drummer, is also his buddy, so he'll be watching next week as the boys play in Abu Dhabi.
And you are going where?
I'm going to Manchester next week.
No, you are not.
All right, over.
That's how I know. That's how I know.
Are you being serious?
I'll take my daughter, yeah.
Right, let's wrap up the sports show. Gemma, lovely to see you back.
Thank you very
thank you so much for inviting your father. That was
Lovely to
absolutely
be
wonderful.
back. You can go now.
Yeah, well, that's... Richard, as always.
Thank you, Moose.
Delightful.
An absolute pleasure.
Absolutely delighted to see you.
And by the way, he's a good man here.
We know that he's...
in a previous incarnation.
Can I show you
Very
his
good.
curriculum vitae, just to check it out, all right? He said he was like the head of this and the head of that, all right?
That's the people most of the time.
Nigel Seeley, massive part of the team. Thank you so much. I really hope you enjoyed the sports show. Same time tomorrow, 10 o'clock for your finance, 11 o'clock for your sport. Remember, no show this Friday. I've given the team the long weekend as nobody can take holidays. Well done, the production team. You've done a really good job today. Thank you. Have a good day. And last thought, do not gamble with what you cannot afford to lose. Thank you.